friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, yes, I've been doing a lot of preparedness related videos lately because it's just kind of been more on my mind, and some of it for obvious reasons, but also because I was already thinking about focusing more on this stuff again. Today, I wanted to talk just about different ways of being prepared, just covering a few of them rather quickly. This is more of an overview to kind of get people, especially those who may be new into preparedness, or maybe you've already been doing it for a while, but are thinking about, or what are some other areas that I can work on my preparedness. And while a lot of us, when we first start getting into preparedness, we may focus on all of these different areas at the same time. For some people, it might be easiest to start in just one area, just one place, and put your focus on that. So I'm looking at it from that point of view. But again, it's all going to be up to the person and what's going to work best for you, your time, your pocketbook, and so much more. Just remember that preparedness does not mean you have to run out and buy a whole bunch of expensive or fancy or silly gadgets just to be prepared. It's about finding what suits you and what you are most likely to need according to your situation and where you live. I really think that if anyone's going to start anywhere, it should be looking at getting out of debt. Because once you can get yourself out of debt, then it will make everything else go a lot easier. Now, when Patrick and I decided we're going to crack down and pay off the house, I think it was 2014 that we paid off the house. So it was probably about 2012 we decided to really get serious. And it was our last and final debt. But at the same time, we also were trying to work on being better prepared. So we were putting up a little bit of food, we were putting in a garden, and while we were also really putting money towards the principal. Now, I did a video on this, or we both did actually, that I'll link to in the description box down below, on how we got there. We had set a goal of like 2 years to have the house paid off, and we managed to make it, which seemed unreasonable at the time, but we managed to get there 6 months sooner. So that was pretty cool. And how did we do that without making more money and still also putting money into being more prepared? Well, I go over in that, but really the basics are just finding things that you can cut back on, things that are not necessary to live. So going out to eat, these are the things I mention quite often, buying coffee stand coffees when you can just make coffee at home. And if you like it fancy, you can make it fancy at home too. It's easy. Not going out to eat, cooking and baking from scratch, finding ways that you can cut, even if it's just temporarily. It doesn't mean you have to take all of the joy out of your life. Just look at, am I willing to make these sacrifices for a period of time so that I will actually be able to free up more funds to do other things with. So anyway, I do think that is, in a lot of cases, I do think that's where a lot of people, if not most or all people, should start. So then when you're looking at things where, you might be looking at a power outage very likely happening, because like around here, that was one of the big things, because, it's kind of silly when you live where we are, if you don't have alternative sources of light or to cook things or things to just be able to run your basic needs in the event of a power outage, because they're so normal here. They just happen several times a year. Consider the things you need the most. Light is a very important thing. And I just did a live show plus an outtake video, separate clip on off-grid lighting. Usually every couple of years I cover this topic again. So I cover so many different forms of lights that you can use. It can be as simple as just getting some outdoor solar lights if you live in a place that gets a lot of sun year round. If you don't live in a place that gets a lot of sun year round, that might not be the best choice. So I'll link you to one of the more recent videos on lighting so you can see my list that I go through. But I cover all kinds. Right here you can see 2 different oil lamps. This one was bought at a garage sale. This one was a wedding gift that we got. So the very first oil lamp that we owned was this one. So we've had this for over 34 years now. And then I just have some LED candles here that don't put out a lot of light, but they're kind of a nice, just for a nice looking lighting, but these work great for a night light. I use these quite a bit for night lights, when we have power during the night and you need to get up and move around. But I also have videos on cooking and baking, off-grid. Again, I'll link to my most recent one, heating and staying warm. I'll be linking to a lot of videos down below. I'll just put it that way. So any videos I already have out on these topics, I'll try to remember to get them all in there. So obviously cooking, staying warm, and having a source of light are going to be really, really important things. But like for me, I like to be able to sew even during a power outage, or can. I do all my canning off grid because it's easier for me to just do it all outside on a propane. And sewing, I use a treadle machine, and that's what I've been sewing on for about 12 years-ish, around in there. I'm just giving examples of what I do. So I have the Country Living grain mill because not only has Patrick hooked up an electric motor to it that he rebuilt and made to go with that, it's actually a hand crank one. And so when I first had it, the first year or so, I was grinding my grains by hand, but I can use the electric when I have power, and I can even use solar power most of the year to do that. But in the event that I'm not getting enough solar power and there's a power outage, I can still grind my grains by hand. And then if you live in, like you have your own well, and your water gets pumped up by electric means, you're going to need to be looking at ways to be able to access that water when electricity is not there. So whether that be getting some solar panels that can strictly, specifically just for that, or something that you can be able to get that water up out of the ground without having to use power. And then if you work with wood or handle tools of any kind, and you're used to using electric tools, consider having some hand-powered tools on hand. So you just got to look at what it is that you need the most. It's going to be different for each person. So that's off-grid options. That's one method of preparedness. So one was getting out of debt. Two was looking into some off-grid ways of doing the things that are most important. Three, of course, and these aren't in any order of importance, by the way, would be food and water. So making sure that you're either having a way to collect water, because like rainwater, spring water, and ways to clean that, or storing water, growing a garden, or putting up food into food storage. Again, this is going to look different for each person. The types of food that you grow and the types of food that you store are going to be entirely up to you. There's no one right way to do things when it comes to this, because a lot of people will holler at you, beans and rice, beans and rice. Well, the reason why they say that is because it's cheap, it's easy to stock up on, they'll last for many years. However, maybe not, you don't like rice, maybe your family doesn't like rice or beans. That might not be the best thing to store up on. So you got to look into all of the different options and consider the things that are going to give you the most calories, protein, and so on, but also things that you will eat, because it's going to be pointless to stock up on things that, you might go, well, in a pinch, we'll eat this. You don't want to look at it that way. It's something, yes, but it would be better to look at things that you really enjoy eating. And then also when it comes to the food, water storage, look at diversifying that. So don't just have, like I say, you're putting up your own food. Don't just dehydrate all your food. Don't just can all your food. Don't just store all your food in glass jars. Like I store a lot of my food in glass jars. In an event of a massive earthquake, all my glass jars could be gone no matter the measures we've taken to protect them. So having other ways to store food where, even if it means having to store it in Mylar, plastic, and more, at least it's still food that can be eaten, unlike that was in glass that had been shattered. So I'm looking more at that too. So diversifying your food. And I'm going to do a separate video on that, going more into detail on that. So number 4 is, this is another form of preparedness that a lot of people don't think about when they're always thinking about stuff, but that is building your skills and your knowledge about things. So if you know how to do things and then you practice these things and you have the skills to do them, that's going to go a long way. So if you're not already cooking and baking from scratch so that you can save money and or use the flours and grains and whatnot that you've stored up, then you need to start learning about how to do that and start practicing it, or growing a garden, or investing in the equipment and things that you might need to be able to do stuff for yourself. And or even use that as a form of barter to get what you might need from someone else, especially if, like us, we have chickens, but we don't have dairy animals. If I want milk and cream and butter and all that, I may have to barter with someone else who's already doing that stuff in our area. And I have done that before, actually. But getting in the habit of learning how to barter, which is not hard, but for some reason it's intimidating for people. And I have a video on this too. That's something you got to learn about and practice and do. And then, other ideas of supplies and knowledge to invest your time and maybe funds into is things for being able to make your own clothes, learning how to sew that so that you can do that. Things for making soap, learning how to make soap so that you can do that, because everybody's going to need soap for something. So again, that one was building your skills and knowledge and investing in the equipment you may need to be able to do those very things. That, of course, includes, investing in any hard copy books that can help you learn how to do these things. Like when I learned how to crochet years and years ago, I bought a simple little thin book that was like learn how to crochet in a day. And I literally did learn how to do a lot of basics in a day, and within a couple days was making a full Afghan for the first time. Never crocheted anything before. Went right to making an Afghan. I still have that around here somewhere. And it was fun, and ever since then, I kept learning more and more, learned how to make all kinds of different things, and even have designed my own things. So, and that was all from a book. And then number 5 is ways that you can prepare for medical situations. So, especially if you already are having health issues, you or a family member, what are ways that you can prepare to deal with that? If you are currently on medications, what are things that you can do to either get yourself off those medications and so you can start depending on herbs you grow instead, or maybe stock up on the really necessary medications you might need or whoever's that you're caring for might need. I know it can be a little bit tricky getting a doctor to, be able to prescribe you, being able to have these, medications to last for a certain amount of time. But I know some people have done it, and it probably also depends on the medication. But if you can, just like one of the reasons I decided over 12 years ago to take us off our thyroid medication was looking at the fact that A, do we really need this? Is it really helping us? And then, of course, B, what would happen in a major crisis situation if we couldn't get this? Is there something else we can do? And so that's why I started looking into that, so I could take ourselves off the medication and not have to be dependent on it, and then learn what herbs and other things I can do to help our thyroids be healthy without having to take a synthetic drug. So there's a lot you can do, but you're going to have to do the hard research to learn that for yourself. And just know that I have a whole playlist on videos where I compile herbs and more that can help with various different health conditions, such as high cholesterol, hypertension, things that can just simply help with brain health, things that can help with Lyme disease, and so much more. I will link to that full playlist in the description box down below. I know I still have more videos that I can put in there, but I need more ideas, but I have a bunch. And that was just me taking time to look this stuff up so that people would have a resource point to look into. But from that point, then you still have to do the personal research for yourself and your situation or the person that you're caring for. But yes, and so this medical preparedness also, again, is learning how to take care of things, learning CPR and some basic first aid, having things on hand or growing things that can help with this. And I just did a video that I'll link to down below. Actually, what I'll do is I'll link to that playlist because it's my basic essentials playlist that I just recently started, but in there is one on medical preparedness. So a lot of just the basic essentials that I personally want to make sure I have on hand. And that could give you some ideas to start with there. And then number 6 is in a major situation, like what we've been seeing recently, if time is given to you at least, is being able to have an escape plan. If you need to just get out, if you have to evacuate. We had a couple of years ago that even in our very wet area, we had a fire heading our way, and they were already starting to evacuate neighborhoods, and they put the neighborhood that the next one over from us on alert to be ready for evacuation. So we knew ours was going to be next. So we were thinking, okay, what's our escape plan here? What are we going to do? And that was something we hadn't been faced with before. It was a scary thing, but thankfully we had things and places that we can go and take, the important, expensive equipment to, or places that we could go stay if we needed to that were a friend's out of town or our other piece of properties or whatever. But there would have been things that would have been a complete loss. And sometimes that's just the way it is, but you at least thinking of escape plans. And again, I did also do a video on this as well, things to consider for an escape plan. So that's, making sure you have some kind of bug out bags and just things ready to go and, for yourself, your kids, your animals, whatever. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. And again, I'm going to try to link to all these videos down below. I can't promise I'll remember them all, but I'll do my best. And if not, you can always do a search on my channel and see if you can find those. And any thoughts, ideas you would like to share, please put those in comments down below. Again, this is just a very basic list to give you some food for thought on this topic. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.